Welcome to the Wander Mode podcast, where we celebrate the fearless spirit of women embracing life's wanderings. Where every story is a spark of inspiration and reminds us that sometimes the most beautiful moments happen when we simply embrace wherever the journey may lead. Today's episode starts a series of 3 episodes, a first on the Wander Mode podcast. I have interviewed so many incredible women that I would absolutely love to have multiple conversations with. And Paula was one of them, and she was willing to come back and schedule some time. And here we are, having recorded 3 episodes. And in today's episode, we're specifically focusing on intuition. Now, we're going to go into other topics related to intuition. So today is very much a building block conversation, but I think that it's really going to touch you what Paula has to say about intuition and getting back to being able to trust ourselves and believe in ourselves when our bodies and our minds are really telling us you need to make a certain choice or you need to make a certain change. And isn't that really what we all want, is to ultimately be able to trust ourselves? Take a listen to the episode and let me know what you think. We're only going to touch on the tip of the iceberg today about intuition and self-care and some positivity aspects, because as we were talking about before the podcast started, I'm definitely in a very anxious state right now with my motherhood journey. And I think that there's just something so empowering about the tools and the knowledge that you have. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm very happy and excited to be here.
Wonderful. So let's start first with you explaining what it is that you are knowledgeable about, so that when we get into this conversation about intuition and self-care and positivity and the doshas, everyone's not like, wait, what are we talking about? What direction are we going? So let's just give a little quick 101 lesson on what someone needs to know going into this conversation.
I am in my 50s. I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. One's 19, my daughter. My son's 13. I started out as a yoga teacher when I was in my 20s. I was living in New York. I have to say, I grew up with a father who was very spiritual and very awake at a younger age for me. And he made sure of it that my brother and I were awoken to as we left the Lutheran church. And he went on his spiritual quest. And so it's always been my biggest interest. And so to make a long story short, I started out as a yoga teacher. I was an actor for many years. And I went to New York to study theater. And that's when I kind of I need to be able to navigate this big city. How do I do it? And I found my yoga mat, period. And then yoga led me into Ayurveda when I was in my earlier 40s. And those two are sister sciences. So everybody knows yoga, right? It's very Western. It's very popular. The clothes are really cool. But Ayurveda is the mother science. I like to think of it so simply as yoga is the spiritual aspect of Ayurveda, and Ayurveda is the healthy, medicinal wellness side of yoga. And the two go hand in hand. They're so interwoven. Weirdly enough, we've just focused on yoga because it makes your body look good, apparently. Like I said, the cool clothes are cool, but Ayurveda is becoming a lot more relevant, and people are becoming more aware of it in the West because everybody is on this path to trying to understand things more. I think, thank God, collectively and individually. It's trending to be healthy. It's trending to quit drinking. It's trending to prioritize your self-care, healthcare. Those words are trendy now, right? Whether you're hearing it from some 22-year-old YouTuber who's just parroting what they've read, to the ancients that have been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's a 5,000 plus year old body wisdom tradition that is ancient wisdom, as is Buddhism, Hinduism, a lot of these methods and spiritual practices. So we are going to dive into the intuition part of it you've wanted to chat about. You've already mentioned that, which is so important because that brings us back to ourselves. right?
Yeah. So I'm curious, what do you have to understand about yourself first in order to be able to have some trust in what your intuition is? Because I would assume that intuition is one of those things where at our core, it's this thing that is supposed to be a guiding light. But oftentimes, by the time we're in that midlife stage, we've perhaps built some bad habits in ignoring our intuition.
So, what is intuition? It is our higher wisdom, our inner
Mhm.
wisdom, our higher voice, our inner voice. I mean, it's labeled as so many things these days, but it's a part of us that is guiding us towards
Mhm.
our dharma, which is
Mhm.
purpose, right? It's the part of us that doesn't yell, it whispers. And like you said, we are brought into a world where we are, from the moment we take our first breath, we are imprinted, we are influenced by parents, teachers, preachers, creepy peers, right? The news, media, politics, everything imprints on us. And we are taught that we have to be able to function in a world that is very materialistic, right? That is very tangible. And we're given these tools how to navigate, and we are taken further away from our intuition, the part of us, that inner source, that inner wisdom, your soul, that is continuity of consciousness too, right? That actually comes into this life with a ton of information already,
Mhm.
if you believe in that, right? Whatever
Yeah.
your belief is, right? So we already come in so informed with so much wisdom. Wisdom, not knowledge. Knowledge is learned stuff that we can learn from a book. We can get a master's degree and whatever, but it's not wisdom. It's not our inner knowing. And I think what happens is we're so pulled away from that as we move through our lives because we have all these influences. And it's like even pre puberty is when the little meaning making machine of our brain creates meaning about ourselves, our sexuality, money, the people around us, the world, safety, the opposite sex, our sex, everything, right? We create a meaning around it. We have to, because that's the masculine part of our brain that has to put everything in a little box and make sense of it. We lose touch
Mhm.
with our feminine side. For men too, right? If we're just talking about these two. And that's the part that we really have to trust. And especially as moms and as women, it's so important because we do know the answers, but we're so distracted with all the noise of the world and we're so busy and there's bright, shiny objects and we're like moving at a million miles an hour, just trying to keep our heads above water, right? Just trying to put out the most immediate fire all the time, that we don't take time for ourselves. We start to lose trust in ourselves because we get those little feelings that go, don't turn right, turn left. No, no, don't date that guy. Nope, don't eat that. Don't have that third cup of coffee because you know what? You know what already happens to you when you do, you know?
Mhm.
Or turn off the screen at 9 o'clock because you know it's going to screw up your sleep. And we know that we need to sleep. We know we're already exhausted. So those little tiny things, right? All the way to the bigger things like don't marry that person. And so I believe the more we go, oh, I hear you, oh, I can't, okay, yeah, oh, but if I do that, oh my God, I'm gonna create chaos over here. The other people in my life are not gonna really like it if I listen to what I know is true for me. Or even if it's like, hey, hubby, I'm not gonna stay up and watch TV tonight with you at 10 because I know I need to get sleep right now so I can be a better person in the morning. And he might be like, well, what do you mean? We always watch Netflix and drink a glass of wine at 9 o'clock at night on a Friday. So then we go, oh, okay, whatever, I'll just do it. And then that part of us goes, you know, it's not the right thing. Right. And then we do this over and over. And this is how we develop our daily habits, which create our weekly habits, our monthly habits, create our realities, create our years, create our life. So it's those small little moments that we get an opportunity to make a decision. And is it coming from here? Is it coming from what we think we should do? Is it coming from somebody else's expectation? Or is it coming from listening to the part of us that is guiding us all the time? Does that make sense?
Yeah. You couldn't be more accurate, I think, in terms of us practicing the habit of ignoring that little intuitive voice in ourselves that keeps trying to pass things to us in a whisper. Because I think sometimes if it's not yelling at you, you can sort of ignore it, sort of like a teacher whispering, right? Oh, I can keep talking over here to my friend and I'll just ignore the whisper. Did you have a breakthrough moment in particular in your life where it was very obvious to you, like, I've been ignoring this voice for so long, but now I kind of can't. And now that you actually listen to it, you can't go back?
Yeah, lots of those. And it's funny because I teach a habit course rooted in Ayurveda, and I don't do everything perfectly all the time.
Yeah.
I see in a lot of women, and I've struggled with too, is over the years using certain things to help you get through the day. Whether that's sugar, whether that's social, whether that's the glass of wine that has been marketed to us as self care as women. As a collective, we're getting marketed that it's self care in a bottle. I mean, who
Mhm.
are wine bars made for? Men? No, they're made
So
for
true.
women. And it's a massive market. I mean, alcohol companies are actually sponsoring breast cancer events. I mean, does that make any sense when it's actually causes cancer? Even in Canada was the first place to say that no amount is healthy. Not like this certain amount, but like no amount is healthy.
Mhm.
So as we get older, we start to see how it plays out. Like any of our habits, if you're in your 20s, we can get away with so much for so long, right?
Yeah.
Then we get into like that midlife years, kind of between like early 20s and maybe late 40s, where it's pitta, fire. It is intense, it is focused, it is hot, it is driven, it is our career, it is making babies, it is making money, it is like go, 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 go. And we're taught, oh, alcohol is great for unwinding, it's great for self care, it shuts my mind off at night, whether it's that, whether it's shopping online, whether it's sugar. And then the more we do it, the more we crave it. The more we do something, we work the muscle, we build the muscle. Point is that alcohol keeps any of the habits that maybe don't serve us, that numb us out, that keep us disconnected from our intuition. You asked me about what is the time of life for me that is really where I've been listening to my intuition. Right now, I'm in it.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's really being self sovereign in a way like life is
Mhm.
not endless. We can sit and we can distract ourselves. But at some point, it's like we're in charge of how the story ends. What's your
Yeah.
legacy? What do you want to pass on to your children? And for me, it really is, especially for our kids, teaching them that they know best. They have the answers within them. I think that is a big one for me right now that I'm really wanting to be a voice on.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
it's not comfortable all the time. And our intuition often will be like, no, this marriage isn't working out for you. This job just isn't doing it. You got to make a change. And we go, oh, I don't really want to
Yeah.
do that. That's too hard. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right. But if we don't listen to it, the voice, it either gets really loud and it manifests as a disease.
Mm.
Chances are some sort of dis-ease in emotions, physical, mental.
Yeah.
Teachings say in Ayurveda and in yoga, the word is pragnya prada. There's the three causes of disease. One is not living in alignment with nature. The second is disrespecting our senses. And think about how we do that these
Yeah.
days. We're bombarded to the point where we are in information overload,
Yeah.
which is causing anxiety and depression and overeating and stress and medication and all this stuff. And the other one is living out of alignment, not listening to our intuition, is literally creating crimes against ourselves. It's knowing
Mhm.
better and not doing it. I know that glass of wine, third glass or whatever, is going to make me feel shitty tomorrow and blah, blah, blah. But I'll do it anyways. Like for me, that was the biggest thing. There's no like rock bottom or any of that stuff. It's more about I know better. And when I do it, who suffers for it? I do. And then you start to lose trust in yourself. And that's the worst thing. We worry about other people losing trust in
Yeah.
us, yet we break promises to ourselves all the time because
Yeah.
nobody else knows. And to me, that's integrity. And that's a big word
Yeah.
I really resonate with. I actually usually have a little pendant on that has an emblem that actually says integrity. And it's about how do I live in integrity with my higher self? How do I listen to what I know is true for me, regardless of anyone else or anything else? A lot of women are like, oh, it's selfish. We learned that from our ancestors, from our mothers. That's what it was. Self care was
Yeah.
selfish. You didn't put yourself before your kids. And that doesn't mean like you leave your kids out in the cold unfed. Of course not.
Right.
Like we've chosen to be moms if you're a mom listening to this, right? We've made the choice. So it is
Yeah.
our responsibility. And there are certain times in life too that kids are going to require more of us. So of
Mhm.
course we have to be with them when they're 3 and 4 and babies and nursing and or whatever, but we can't disregard what we need because if we're not healthy and vibrant and feeling good about ourselves and stress free, who are we showing up as?
Yeah.
We're showing up as anxious, depressed, resentful. angry, snippy, impatient. It's so important that we are taking care of ourselves and that we are allowing ourselves to guide us. There's no one way for anybody. Everybody has to walk their own path and has their own circumstances. Some people can have help and have Uber Eats every night. Some people can't. And they've got 3 kids and they're working a full-time job and they're a single parent and they're on a budget and. So we have to also have real compassion for ourselves. Hold ourselves so delicately, because if we don't, who else will? Even if that means I get out for a 10-minute walk in the morning, or I create a little bit of extra time in the morning where I get up earlier before the kids wake up, just so I'm not like waking up to the sound of the alarm and hit the ground running and grab the coffee and I'm out the door. So it's a balance. And I love that this conversation is coming out, like intuition, inner self, inner wisdom, higher self, whatever we want to call it. This stuff's been around forever, right? This is part of who we are. So we all have to make it mean whatever it means for us. We have to be self-sovereign and we have to take responsibility and have a clear vision of what do we want? Why do we want it? Who do we want to be in the world? What am I here for? What's my purpose? And I think it's just so important that we take time, whether it's meditation, whether it's journaling, whether it's connecting to nature more, whether it's having conversations with more women and people, whether it's being more vulnerable, really connecting to ourselves, I think is so important.
And I think even hearing this conversation, and to your point about just saying things as they are and getting stuff out there and not tiptoeing around things, you can't start new habits or a new way of thinking if you don't necessarily have the little instigator to start thinking differently, right? Like, as you said, it's so easy to
Right.
get caught in the trap of busy, 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 up and going. And I'm waking up with the kids and I have too much on my plate in this season of my life. And I mean, the number of times I've heard it's just a busy season. It's just the season I'm in. It's just really busy, 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 busy. If you don't, even in listening to this conversation, have a small takeaway of, if I'm being 100% honest with myself, I'm not going to listen to it all the time, but
Yeah.
I'm going to try to listen to it a quarter of the time. Like,
Yeah.
even that would be a step in the right direction, that you are acknowledging that there is something in there that you're choosing to ignore.
Yes, just the awareness. That's the first step. And honestly, Julie, there are different seasons of life. And
Yeah.
when you're in the season of young kids, I think one of the big things for women is learning to say no. Is
Mhm.
learning to create some boundaries. And in that, going, I'm going to say no because I need something too. It's easy to stay distracted. I love, what's her name? Marissa Peer. She's a public speaker. She's done a ton of TED Talks. She says the number one disease affecting most humans is I'm not enough. So if I don't feel like I'm enough, then I have to constantly be doing and in action and getting approval. You know what I mean? Because if we're busy, it means we're worthy. And
Yeah.
I think that's a big mindset too. It's like, well, if I'm busy and if I have a full schedule and I have a lot of things going on, I'm going to look from the outside like I'm being productive and I'm successful. So
Mhm.
being able to say no sometimes and create boundaries is actually a really good thing. Saying no because, like, I don't need this. I don't have time. I know it's going to deplete me. I know it's going to keep me up longer. I know it's going to be exhausting, but I make a choice to do this instead.
And I think coupling that with the understanding that you can take on that extra thing, and that may be, I'm now enough because I said yes to that thing, but then there's always going to be another
Thing.
thing, right? Like, you still have to do the next thing or say yes to the other thing because you said yes to this thing. And there's not really an end there. So it's almost a mindset shift from, where am I believing that I'm enough? Where am I getting that information from, so that I can still say yes to things when it genuinely makes sense to say yes to, but that's not where I'm getting my worth from. So therefore,
Yeah.
I need to be over here instead of
Yeah.
over here. I knew this time frame was not going to be enough time for us, because I'm like now looking at the clock and I'm
Oh,
like, oh, great. So, Paula, we're going to try to do a part 2, part 3 to our
yeah.
conversation, because there are
Love
things that we touched on that I think would be helpful for having more overall information about getting back to that intuition and understanding who you are in this moment. And so be looking to the podcast for future episodes that are going to be coming out in order to have more of a complete picture of my conversation with Paula today.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks for wandering with me today. If you were inspired by this episode and think it would ignite a spark in a friend, don't hesitate to share. And if you're craving more from the Wander Mode community, hop on over to Instagram at WanderModeCo. Meet you in the next episode, and until then, wander on.